Hello, you're watching World News on TVP World. I'm Sasha Farbach. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has spoken with his Ukrainian counterpart, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, just hours after Russia launched a barrage of drones and ballistic missiles on Kyiv. It follows a similar call on Thursday with Russian leader Vladimir Putin, which Trump says did not make any progress.
Donald Trump's patience with Vladimir Putin appears to be wearing thin.
I don't think he's there, and I'm very disappointed. Well, it's not, I'm just saying, I don't think he's looking to stop, and that's too bad.
An hour-long phone call between the pair on Thursday, failing to trigger a breakthrough. Instead, as day turns to night, Moscow launched a record number of drones into Ukrainian buildings and residential areas, in its largest air assault since the full-scale invasion began. Those in Kyiv forced to take shelter, including TVP World editor Piotr Kuchma, who was caught in the city as the attacks unfolded.
At some point, I honestly thought the blast wave would rip through the heavy metal doors where cars enter this garage.
Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski quickly took to social media, calling out Putin for mocking President Trump's peace efforts and revealing a Polish consulate was damaged. It's not the first time diplomatic missions in Kyiv have been impacted, with a building hosting the Argentine, Portuguese, Moroccan, North Macedonian and Palestinian embassies hit earlier this year. The onslaught comes after Washington halted some shipments of air defense missiles and ammunition to Ukraine, citing low stockpiles, though reports now suggest the Pentagon found the aid would not, in fact, hurt American readiness.
Ever since the Oval Office scene with Zelenskyy, European NATO members have seriously woken up and are now facing the possibility that indeed U.S. military aid for Ukraine will decrease, maybe even be reduced to zero at some point in the future. Well, Europeans will still hopefully be able to buy weapon systems in the U.S. I mean, that's, again, I think in the Trumpian definition of American interest, that would be a positive. But the weapons have to be there, of course.
It's believed that weapons already in Poland and en route to Ukraine were caught up in the move. And after another sleepless night in the war-torn country's capital,
I had a feeling that something was flying every minute. The drones were descending and then bang, bang. Everything is covered in soot now. It's difficult to breathe there.
Those weapons could prove to be more important than ever. Aaron Darman, TVP World.
In his daily evening address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy spoke about the phone call he held with Donald Trump. He also highlighted the agreement between Kyiv and Copenhagen to jointly produce weapons in Denmark, calling it an important step forward.
I also spoke with President Trump today, which was an important conversation. We agreed on a meeting between our teams about strengthening air defense. We discussed joint production in detail, which is something both we and the United States need. We also saw an important decision taken in Europe today, in Denmark. It's our first agreement to produce arms in Europe for Ukraine, which is a joint production effort between Ukraine and Denmark. This is vital for our security as well as in terms of investments.
Russia and Ukraine have exchanged another batch of prisoners of war on Friday. The move is the result of an agreement made in Istanbul in May this year. Ukrainian families gathered to welcome the released soldiers, hoping to reunite with their loved ones.
I'm the mother of Vitaly Husar. He went missing on December 15th, 2024, just one day before my birthday. And to this day, we know absolutely nothing. Not a single word, nothing. I came to meet them. I hope my brother is among them. He's been in captivity for nearly 3 years and a month. He was concussed and wounded in the shoulder. He already had health issues, and the released soldiers said his condition was serious. We're desperately waiting for him to come home. We are the parents of Ivan Matvienko, who went missing on February 18th, 2024, in the village of Krynki in the Kherson region. We still have no information about him, not a single thing to this day.
We believe, we hope that maybe today there will at least be some news. Maybe, God willing, something will become clear.
The halt of U.S. arms deliveries to Ukraine is being felt at the front. The country's defenders are now increasingly relying on home-produced weaponry.
This is the 2P-22 Bogdana B 155mm howitzer. It was designed in 2015 and started production in 2023. Now it proves to be critical in filling the hole left by the halting of US weapons and ammunition shipments.
As much as we would like it, our partners provide some assistance, but not enough weapons. We are certainly thankful for their assistance, but we definitely want more, and it's good that Ukraine has started its own production.
Both Ukraine and Russia rely heavily on artillery on the front line. Western countries have supplied Ukraine with hundreds of artillery systems since the start of the full-scale invasion. The decision by Washington to halt some weapons shipments prompted warnings by Kyiv that the move would weaken its ability to defend itself.
The big advantage of this cannon is that, in the event of any breakdowns, we can quickly replace or repair it because we produce it ourselves.
Kyiv, meanwhile, is working to increase domestic production capabilities. Earlier this week, Ukraine launched a joint weapons production program with the countries of the Ramstein Contact Group.
Poland's Interior Minister Tomasz Siemoniak is visiting the Polish-Lithuanian border on Saturday. He'll meet with his Lithuanian counterpart Władysławas Kondratovich at Bodzisko, one of two border crossings between the two countries. The migration crisis at the Polish-Belarusian border, which has been ongoing since the summer of 2021 and was brought on by Belarus, has prompted Poland to reinstate border controls with both Lithuania and Germany. The Interior Minister's visit comes ahead of the reintroduction of temporary border controls on Monday, July 7th, in response to a rise in irregular migration, largely driven by routes originating in Belarus and passing through Lithuania. Checks will be implemented at 13 locations across the 104-kilometer border, including 3 major crossings that operate 24/7. Officials say the move is aimed at enhancing national and EU security while minimizing disruptions to everyday cross-border travel. The hydrological situation in Warsaw is becoming increasingly concerning. Recent measurements showed the Vistula River at only 18 centimeters on Friday, breaking last year's record low of 20 centimeters. Due to the critically low water levels, ferry and water tram services on the Vistula have been suspended because navigation is no longer safe. The Institute of Meteorology and Water Management forecasts that water levels could drop even further in the coming days, possibly reaching as low as 12 to 15 centimeters. This will be approximately 2 meters below the average level for this time of year. As Poland grapples with its first extreme heat wave of the year, temperatures in Warsaw and many other regions have soared to 36 degrees Celsius, well above the seasonal norm. The scorching heat, combined with low soil moisture, is causing Poland's rivers, including the Vistula, to dry up at unprecedented rates. While the forecast suggests some rainfall across Central Europe by midweek, it is unlikely to immediately alleviate the historically low levels of the rivers. The extreme low water levels in the Vistula reflect a broader European trend, where major rivers like Germany's Rhine and Hungary's Danube are also experiencing unprecedented lows due to prolonged heat and drought. The wave of anti-government protests continues in Serbia, and the authorities have begun fighting back. Protests are being arrested and clashes with police are growing increasingly violent. Our reporter, Pavel Czaskovsky, took a closer look at the current state of things in the Balkan country.
In Serbia, tensions are escalating, with protesters being arrested and blockades dispersed across the country. Earlier this week, demonstrators asked for total blockade of Serbia due to police brutality, but decisive police action largely stopped cities across the country from grinding to a halt. This follows a week of scuffles with police that first broke out after demonstrations last weekend, during which numerous arrests of protesters were made. This escalation of emotions seems to be working in favor of the country's President Alexander Vučić and the ruling SNS party, as the authorities claim that the protest movement is becoming violent.
3,681 people are harassing the 6.5 million inhabitants of Serbia. An attack on police officers is an attack on the state, and we must no longer allow this harassment of the people by an aggressive minority.
And the country's president says the protest movement is losing momentum.
Can you harass citizens for a while longer? You can, but to your own detriment. I said that in 3 months I would have to defend these protesters from the Serbian society. And when I said 3 months, it might be less time than those 3 months.
But last weekend's demonstrations attracted crowds, and those associated with the protest movement say that the eruption of violence from last week was inspired by the government.
What we saw on Saturday night, these unknown groups of men in black t-shirts, many of them masked, that pretended to be protesters but actually came there with various weapons.
This last week in Serbia is therefore a turning point for the protest movement. For 7 months since its inception, in opposition to the government's perceived corruption and state capture, the mass protests were calm and orderly. But now, with the government apparently changing its approach towards the opposition, the protesters find themselves navigating uncharted territory. Paweł Trzaskowski for TVP World.
China's top diplomat has reportedly told a leading EU official that Beijing does not want Russia to lose the war in Ukraine. Wang Yi's private comments appear to have come on his whistle-stop tour across Europe, visiting Brussels, Berlin and Paris in quick succession. And as Natalia Komarov explains, trade was at the top of his agenda.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has been touring European capitals, starting with Brussels.
Their minister, welcome to Brussels.
There, according to sources cited by Chinese media, Minister Wang privately told EU top diplomat Kaja Kallas that China doesn't want to see Russia lose in Ukraine, as that would allow the United States to focus more attention on the Indo-Pacific.
Well, this is nothing new. We know this. This is what's interesting. The interesting development is the fact that he allegedly admitted, according to South China Morning Post.
But the main topic on the agenda was trade. Beijing is attempting to present itself as a trustworthy partner, as opposed to Washington under the current administration. However, just as Minister Wang was on his way to shake hands with the French foreign minister in Paris, China imposed an almost 35% tariff on brandy produced in the EU, a move which will mostly hurt France.
We believe that China's measures are unfair, we believe they are unjustified, we believe they are inconsistent with the applicable international rules and are thus unfounded.
Another bone of contention is rare earth minerals. European producers of cars, weapons or new technologies obtain the crucial resources almost exclusively from China. According to European officials, Beijing has been using this predicament for blackmail.
Unfortunately, one-sided and often less than transparent export restrictions on rare earths are currently causing us and our companies in particular great concern.
China responds that it is standard practice to control dual-use goods exports, and Europe's needs could still be met provided correct applications were submitted.
I would like to emphasize once again, do not hype up the rare earth issue as a problem between China and Europe. The issue does not exist.
The visit was meant as preparation for the upcoming EU-China summit, marking 50 years since the establishment of diplomatic relations between Beijing and the bloc.
The summit itself, it is not still very certain how long the summit will be, 2 days initially, but maybe 1 day only. There are talks about making it shorter because of these economic issues. And obviously, political agenda is also tense, so altogether, it doesn't look very, very brilliant.
It seems Minister Wang Yi's visit did not yield many positive results, and the European Union will continue to view the United States as its #1 partner. For TVP World, Natalia Komarov.
It was a tough start for Poland's national team in their historic women's Euro debut last night. Facing tournament giants Germany, the Poles held strong in the first half, but eventually fell 2-0 in Zurich. Despite the loss, the team showed great discipline and heart, with goalkeeper Kinga Schmik making several crucial Captain Eva Payer led the attack with determination, but clear chances were few against the dominant German team. Moving forward, Poles will turn their focus to Sweden in their next group match, still hopeful to make a mark in their first European Championship. That's all for World News right now, but stay tuned. Much more coming up right here on TVP World. Goodbye.